Welcome to the Sub-Recipes and Preparations How-To Setup Guide. Today we're going to be covering sub-recipes, preparations, the differences, how to set them up, and running production events. To get started, we'll head over to the inventory dropdown and click into our sub-recipes and preparations. I already have a few examples built, but we'll go through how to create one. Sub-recipes and preparations are built exactly the same. They're typically used when you have either a batch or a bulk recipe that's made in-house that you sell individual portions of. All recipes will start off as sub-recipes, but can be defined as preparations at any time. However, once defined as a preparation, they cannot be switched back to sub-recipes. The major differences of a sub-recipe and preparation is how they're depleted from your inventory. A sub-recipe depletes from your inventory when the menu item it is within is sold. A preparation will deplete from your inventory when a production event is run. We recommend starting every item off as a sub-recipe, and once you become more comfortable with market ban, we can transition into preparations. Let's do some examples. To create a sub-recipe, we'll go ahead and click the Add button here. Up on top, we can name our sub-recipe whatever we'd like. For example, I make pizza dough in-house, and I make a big batch of my dough, and then I portion it out for each one of my pizzas. So let's go ahead and write pizza dough. We can assign a category. Next, we're going to determine the yield of my recipe. I know that my recipe yields in grams, and my total is about 5,200 grams for my 20 pizza doughs. Next, we'll go ahead and add our ingredients. We'll start off with my flour. And my recipe calls for 2,000 grams of flour. My next ingredient is going to be yeast. At 20 grams. And we'll continue this process for each ingredient within my sub-recipe. Remember, this is going to be the entire batch recipe of yielding over 5,000 grams. So we'll want to make sure we include the entire recipe, not just one pizza portion. As we build, we'll be able to see a cost and an overall cost per unit here. The unit cost is going to be per gram because that is what my yield is. Under the inventory tab, here is where we'll have the option to define as a preparation, add a storage area, enter count options, and have a minimum on hand and par level. Remember, we typically suggest starting off as a sub-recipe and moving over to a preparation when you're ready to create production events. Production events need to be run for every preparation in order for inventory to be depleted. So remember, when you switch over an item to a preparation, you always have to run a production event. I'll go ahead and add my storage area. Walking to. And then we can also add a procedure and an image as well. We can do our cook time, our prep time, and this will all flow over to the cookbook. Lastly, we have the ability to add allergens, just as we do with any other recipes. And when we're all set, we'll go ahead and press save. Now that we've created our sub-recipe, we can add it into our menu items. Let's head over to menu items. And then we take a look at my Buddy's Cake Boss Special Pizza. Here, I'll continue to build out my ingredients for my pizza. Now I already had my crushed tomatoes inventory item, and here is where I will do my pizza dough sub-recipe. Perfect, and you'll see the sub-recipe in brackets here, so we know that this is the recipe I just created. And there are 250 grams of dough within each of my pizzas. So this is an individual pizza that's sold at my restaurant. And what I'm adding in here is just enough of the pizza dough to make one pie that's sold. We'll go ahead and press save. Now, if I wanted to make my sub recipe a preparation, I can simply do that by going back into the sub recipe here. Heading over to my inventory tab and switching this item over to a preparation. This will allow me to run production events and keep more in-depth track of my on-hand value of all of these recipes. So the preparation will then go ahead and press save. Great. Now that we have switched that over to a preparation, let's go over how to run a production event. Under the inventory dropdown, you'll see the tab production events. Here you'll see a list of all previously run production events, and you could filter by the month as well. To create a new one, we'll go ahead and press add. Here you'll see a list of all preparations. Let's start by adding a description. So this is Chrissy's Monday prep. You can change the date here if it was done on a different day, search for items, filter by storage area or by category. So today is Monday and I'm going to make a double batch of my pizza dough. I know one batch is 5,200 grams. So if I'm making a double batch, I'll go ahead and list 2, giving me 10,400 grams. I also made meatballs. I made one batch of my meatballs and I made one batch of my spicy tomato sauce. And this is a list of all of the preparations that I have made today. So it's really important that we are documenting each preparation that was created in order to deplete the inventory. Now, if the items are sub recipes, we don't need to do this process, only if it is listed as a preparation. This is what's going to deplete the inventory from MarketMan and give you an on-hand value for those preparations. Typically, we like to leave this task up to either the head chef or the kitchen manager to make sure that it's getting done on the day that it was actually created to keep best track of the on-hand value of these preparations. When we're all set, we'll go ahead and just press save. Now, this did remove these items from my inventory. So all of the ingredients within the dough, all of the ingredients within the meatballs, and all of the ingredients within the spicy tomato sauce have now depleted from my inventory, but are living as an on-hand value of the entire recipe. So now I know I actually have pizza dough on hand. It's not just a handful of flour and a handful of yeast sitting in my inventory. Now that we have our production event run, we can also do an inventory count for these different preparations. So when we're doing our inventory counts, let's say on the evening of Monday, I'll go ahead and make the date here, whatever it is supposed to be, add a description. And we can go ahead and find our pizza dough. So here I can see my pizza dough preparation. Now I know that I didn't sell any pizza dough, so I still have my 2 batches on hand. And you can take your inventory count just like you would do with any of your other inventory items. This is just going to help you keep track of your on-hand value of all of your different preparations, all of your different recipes that you have. And there you go. That is how you create sub recipes and preparations and run production events within MarketMan.